Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of Health Matters. I'm registered holistic nutritionist and naturopathic doctoral candidate Erica Robinson, and I'll be your host this evening. On tonight's show, we're talking about superfoods for super health. What are they? Where can we find them? And most importantly, how do we use them in our everyday diets? We've got three great food experts on the show tonight. First, we'll be meeting with gluten-free consultant and author Victoria Ye, followed by Granola creator Stephanie Bonetta, and then Joy McCarthy of Joyous Health, a registered holistic nutritionist. So joining us first on the show is Victoria Ye. She is the author of the book, Where Do I Start? The Food Allergy Cookbook. So thanks for joining us on the show tonight, Victoria.
Thanks a lot, Erica.
So gluten-free is a phrase that we hear a lot of recently. I've seen it in the grocery stores, I've seen it even at farmers markets, and even my local pizzeria. So I think what I wanted to cover is, what got you into gluten-free living? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. Well, as a kid, I was generally very healthy, but I always had these sort of chronic things happening in the background that were just enough to bother me, but not quite enough to make my doctors concerned. So I had headaches a lot, chronic sinus infections. My stomach was always rumbly and not feeling that great. So eventually, when I was about 20, I met an MD in Markham who practices integrative medicine, and he put me on a detox diet of no wheat, dairy, and sugar. And I felt so amazing that that 6-week diet became my forever diet.
Became your lifestyle.
Exactly. And then eventually, I eliminated gluten from my diet and felt that much better. And that's how I got started.
So that was your initial exposure. You just took those three things out on account of an MD telling you to do so, basically.
Yes, and it was very challenging. Those first couple weeks were me standing in front of my pantry and looking at a full pantry of food and not knowing what to eat.
I've had the exact same experience, and I think we were talking before this show, and a lot of people think, oh my God, eliminating dairy, gluten, and sugar. A lot of people don't even know what gluten is, but thinking of those things, it's pretty overwhelming to consider eliminating them, right?
It can be very, very overwhelming. It took me about 6 years to get really comfortable with it, and I always talk about it as a gluten-free lifestyle more than a diet, because it's really a whole different way of looking at your food and of living your life and the choices that you make. Yeah. So really, it took me about 6 years to get very comfortable, and what brought me to that point was when I started experimenting with recipes, and I looked at back of packages and see what was in it and sort of try to experiment with different proportions. And once I learned how to convert all my own recipes, that's where it became very easy.
Okay, so a little bit of prep work. And I think what I want to cover too is, for the people that aren't aware, what is gluten?
So gluten is a nutritional protein found in wheat, barley, rye, and the wheat family also includes spelt and kamut.
Okay.
And it's basically just a part of those foods. Some people can't tolerate it, some people have issues with it.
Right, and I was on your website, and too, I was reading about the fact that 1% of Canadians have celiac disease, which is something we're hearing more of, but also that 10 to 15% of Canadians have have a sensitivity or an intolerance towards gluten. So can you differentiate for us what both of those things are?
Sure. So celiac disease is actually an autoimmune disorder. So that's where when an individual ingests gluten, then their immune system becomes somewhat confused, and then what they'll do is the immune system attacks the intestinal lining. So then it compromises your ability to absorb nutrients, etc. There can be a wide range of symptoms, anything from gastrointestinal symptoms, but even things like infertility or neurological problems. And then a sensitivity won't be necessarily an autoimmune response, but it could be something like, if you think of lactose intolerance, if you don't have the enzymes to break it down, or maybe you have an allergy to it. So there's different levels of intolerances to gluten.
Right, so celiac would essentially be the extreme, and then we've got intolerance coming from there.
Or even anaphylactic allergies.
Right,
could be another extreme.
Right, and it is very far-reaching in the effects that it can have on the body. So are there any ways that the viewers can find out if they're allergic to or sensitive to gluten?
So I would say definitely if you have a concern with that, you should consult with your doctor, your naturopath, or your nutritionist.
Right.
If you have, in my opinion, and I'm not a doctor, in my opinion, if you have chronic issues that aren't related to like an incident that happened in your life, like how I had chronic sinus infections just all the time or headaches all the time, it might be related to something that you're eating. So it might be worth exploring your diet as a source of that.
That's right, and it's very powerful when we get into that stuff. And personally, I'm an advocate for no grains, which is very extreme, and I don't take all of my clients that way, and we're not all going to go that way. But was this sort of experimenting on your own and looking at the backs of packages, is this how your cookbook came to be?
Exactly. So my cookbook is all about how to make successful substitutions to your recipes. So basically to take a regular cake recipe or cookie recipe, for example, and how to make it gluten-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free without compromising the texture or the flavor of the recipe. So I use different things. I try to keep it really simple. That's why I called the book Where Do I Start? It's just a very beginner's guide. Where do I start? How do I get on this path to a healthier lifestyle? So I talk about flours like brown rice flour, sweet rice flour, and tapioca starch. I have those 3 in my pantry all the time. I can convert any recipe using those 3. I use grapeseed oil here that I brought too as a dairy substitute for butter.
Really?
And I use honey or maple syrup or stevia for my sugar substitutes.
Right, because your book is focused on eliminating those 3 things.
Exactly.
And so why did you choose those 3 specific?
Those 3 I found that a lot of people are visiting naturopaths or other alternative healthcare practitioners, and those tend to be the top 3 foods that these practitioners are recommending to their patients to eliminate.
To get off of. That's great. And what I like too is the flours that you've mentioned, they're gluten-free and they're also very affordable. So it's not like it's a huge increase in cost to be switching to these flours.
Exactly. And once you can get to just the single flours, like the brown rice or the tapioca starch, then you can also avoid mixes that tend to be costlier. So the mixes are fine and they're great if you're pressed for time or if you're a real beginner and you don't want to fail for your kid's birthday tomorrow.
Right.
But you can also experiment with single flours that can be quite inexpensive.
Right. And actually we have a caller on the line. We've got Steve from Mississauga who has a question for us. Hello, Steve.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What's your question for Victoria?
I was wondering if it's a good thing. Should I go and get tested for celiac, or can I try and cut things out and see how I feel?
So that's a really good question. I get that quite a bit. So thank you for that question, Steve. What I would say is there's sort of 2 schools of thought with this. So one is really, and the Canadian Celiac Association recommends that you always get tested before you go on a gluten-free diet. And the reason is because if you actually have celiac disease, you have to test it when you're eating gluten.
That's right.
Because if you're on a gluten-free diet, it could give you a false negative.
Right.
Now, some people are like, I don't really want to get the blood test, and really the definitive test is a biopsy. So they decide to go on an elimination diet. And if you feel better, then hey, that's great. You know that that's what's your problem. And if you're willing to always be 100% gluten-free from that point on, then that's great. You didn't even need the test.
Right.
But let's say you had celiac disease and you went on this gluten-free elimination diet, then you don't really know, and you might be tempted to cheat once in a while.
That's true.
Which could be really harmful to your health. So there's those 2 things. I guess it really comes down to what discussion you have with your doctor and what you're really willing to sacrifice and what really the changes in your lifestyle you're willing to do.
That's right. And I tell clients that actually no human being has the enzyme to break down gluten. So it does present a slight problem to everyone, even in the best of health. But if you have celiac disease, it has to be absolutely 0 gluten contact because it is so detrimental.
Exactly. And that is the only treatment for celiac disease is 100% gluten-free diet.
Gluten intolerant, gluten avoidance. Now, is the gluten-free diet always healthier?
You know, again, and I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist like you, Erica, I always think that it's good to have a varied diet.
Right.
So if you don't have a problem with gluten, then at least having somewhat of a gluten-free diet or sometimes trying gluten-free foods could help you try different foods. Like when I went on a gluten-free diet and I eliminated wheat, all of a sudden it forced me to think differently about my food, and it forced me to discover new things like quinoa or millet or these wonderful things like amaranth or teff that I never would have tried otherwise. Yeah. So it can be just at the beginning of a journey to a healthier diet.
That's exactly what I found. It was an avenue for creativity, and these are all available, these grains that you're talking about, at any bulk food store now. So they're not rare or hard to find.
No, they're quite easy to find, and Bulk Barn is actually fantastic. They have a lot of really cheap flours, pastas, all that sort of thing. You do have to be careful if you have celiac disease and shopping in bulk stores, because there's easy cross-contamination that can
That's
happen with
right.
double scooping and that sort of thing. But if you simply have an intolerance or a mild sensitivity, then that's a great way to save money.
And now, a lot of people think that going gluten-free is going to be boring. So what would you say to that? How have you jazzed it up?
So, okay, there's two things. The healthiest way to be gluten-free is to eat whole foods.
Right.
To eat real, unprocessed vegetables, meats.
So maybe not the rice checks per se?
Exactly. You know what? Like 80%, 90% of the time, as long as you're going with the whole foods, then that's
Right.
fantastic. And then the 10% of the time, when you really feel like having cereal in the morning, you know, there's things like this rice checks, for example,
Yeah,
that
and
I brought.
I can't believe we've got products like this that are now
Exactly.
gluten-free.
Yeah.
That's new. You know?
And that's like just this wonderful comfort food that you can turn to on those days that you really want that. And honestly, when it comes to baking or converting your own recipes, like I said, you can virtually convert any recipe to make it
let's talk
gluten-free.
about that because I had seen on your website a basic conversion. So can you
Yes.
tell us what that is?
So a couple basic ways that you can transform a regular recipe to make it gluten-free is 3/4 of a cup of brown rice flour
Okay.
and a 1/4 cup of tapioca starch for every cup of flour.
Really, it's that simple.
It's that simple. And the reason is because what gluten does to your recipe is that it helps things stick and it helps things rise. So it's a binder and a leavener. And what
That's right.
happens is the brown rice flour sort of gives you the volume of the wheat, and then that 1/4 cup of tapioca starch helps bind it because it's sticky.
Right.
And then I always top up about a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder per cup, and then it just gives that extra boost in the rise.
Okay.
And then another really simple substitution is 1/2 and 1/2, so 1/2 cup of brown rice flour and 1/2 cup of sweet rice flour. That gives the most moist and fluffy, delicious cakes ever.
So we're not having to turn to these like loaves of brick like bread or anything like
No,
that.
exactly. There's no reason that you have to eat cardboardy food.
Exactly.
It can be very tasty, and honestly, I feed all my guests gluten-free foods, dairy-free, sugar-free, and nobody can tell the difference. At the end of the meal, they'll always say, "Oh, Victoria, it tastes exactly the same, only without that full and bloated feeling afterwards."
Right, exactly. So, and you've got many recipes in your cookbook, that's right?
Yes, I have about 80 recipes, so everything from breakfast and soups and dinners to desserts, and kid-friendly recipes too.
And where can we find your cookbook?
My cookbook is at some health clinics and stores, but best place to find it is on my website, glutenfreeliving.ca.
Great. Okay, well, that's at glutenfreeliving.ca if you want to check out the website. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Victoria.
Thanks a lot for having me,
So
Erica.
check it out, many gluten-free recipes. When we come back, we'll be meeting with Stephanie Bonetta of Girl Nola. Hi, and welcome back to Health Matters, where we're discussing superfoods for super health. Joining us next is creator of granola, Stephanie Bonetta. So thanks for coming on the show, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me.
So the deal with granola, it's gluten-free gourmet goodness, essentially. I love the name.
Thanks.
Now, and this includes products like granola, trail mixes, and truffles, right?
Yes.
Great, and we've got these lovely goods here on the table to show.
I brought a few to show you. There's 9 items in the line. So we've got 3 vegan, gluten-free, naturally sweetened granolas. These are just 2 of them. And there's a nut-free. We've got 3 raw, naturally sweetened trail mixes, and there's a nut-free in that. And then we have these, which are just to live for. They're delicious.
Love with them.
I know, they're delicious. Energy, vegan, raw, gluten-free, naturally sweetened truffles. And we've got 3 of those, and there's 2 nut-frees.
Beautiful. And what I want to say is that if we've got a prize to give away, this is a granola prize pack of, it's 3 of these, the truffles, and 3 of the trail mixes,
There's
right?
a few, yeah. I'm not exactly
Right.
sure how many, but it's about a $30 value.
Wow, okay, so the third person to call in will win this prize pack. And the number to call is 905-848-LIVE, or that's 905-848-5483. So Stephanie, I love your story of how you came to be. You and I met at a clinic that I worked at.
did.
So let's talk about that, because when I met you, you were a full-time teacher, and it was just sort of this overnight success story to create granola.
I
So tell us
was.
about that.
I will. So I was a co-op teacher, and it was the holidays. I wanted to thank the co-op employers. We had about 30 for having our students. I used to teach at Iona Catholic High School, and I decided I loved Martha Stewart's recipes, but they're not very healthy. So I tweaked one of her granola recipes, which was this one here. It turned out to be Choco Berry. And I got these glass jars, put the granola in the glass jars, decorated them, and gave them to a whole bunch of employers. One of the employers was Premier Fitness Physiomed, just near here in Mississauga. And Andrew, the manager at Physiomed, literally drank the granola out of the jar.
Yeah, and as I was saying, we were fighting over the rest of it.
Yes, I know. And so he was like, Steph, why don't you come here, try to sell it on a couple busy days and see how many you sell. And I was like, absolutely, I'd love to. So I did, and in 3 days, I sold over 100 bags.
Oh my God.
And I know, and this was January of 2010.
Right.
And so, I was amazed that a lot of people loved the taste of my granola, that I registered my URL right away and legitimized it and turned it into a business. So.
Right. So goodbye teaching world. Hello, granola.
Yes, actually, I'm still going to be supply teaching in September though.
Okay.
Because I need to pay the bills. So this isn't there yet. But
it's definitely growing, and I'm seeing it in a lot of places. You're at a couple of farmers markets now, some health food stores in the Peel region.
We did start off with farmers markets last summer. I did 4, and my mom and dad did 1 farmers market for me. But I don't have the time or the energy to do that anymore. So I'm concentrating on the 30 stores that we're in Ontario.
Right.
We're in stores from Ottawa all the way down to Niagara.
Right, and then also online as well at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a shopping cart, PayPal online, and we've delivered from all over Canada. We deliver too. So
Really?
yeah.
So, and I want to talk about granola in general. And now, most people don't know that oats, while the grain itself is gluten-free, oats are usually contaminated by wheat. So celiac people usually can't eat
That's
oats.
right.
And we were talking about that with Victoria in the last segment of what the issues are with gluten. So tell us a bit about your oats and how they qualify.
Right. So my oats are pure, uncontaminated, certified, wheat-free oats, and they're Canadian, and hence regular oats that are contaminated are very inexpensive. These oats are about 3 times more expensive than regular oats.
Right.
So that does increase the cost of the finished product.
Right.
Apart from, all the nuts and super power foods that I put in there, like the goji berries and cacao nibs. But yeah, the oats are definitely wheat-free.
So it's safe to eat for anybody with an intolerance or celiac.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. And the other bonus is that it is filled with superfoods, and that's what we're talking about today. So what are some of the superfoods that are included in your granola mixes?
So I love quinoa. So I've got quinoa in all of my granolas and all of my truffles. Hemp hearts, I absolutely love. Goji berries, blueberries, olive oil, cacao nibs, pumpkin seeds too. So those are just a few of the power foods in there.
Right, so it's almost like all killer, no filler. You don't really have
Love it.
the white sugar,
Absolutely.
anything like that.
Yet no refined sugars. I just use pure cherry juice, pure orange juice, and a little bit of raw organic agave, the pure agave.
So would you say this is safe for people with blood sugar issues or diabetics?
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
It's diabetic friendly, very low in sodium. There's only 3% sodium per serving,
Great.
Which is great.
Good for anyone with hypertension or risks of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
The other thing I wanted to talk about are your truffles, because this tastes like the most phenomenal dessert that I've ever had. But the thing is, it's not a bad dessert for you. So tell us what the deal is with the truffles.
Oh, totally. The truffles are, number one, they're so natural tasting. You really do taste the prunes, the dates. The raw cacao from Bali is divine. And they're filling. Like one truffle with a cup of matcha tea or some water fills you up. It's like a healthy snack, and you're full for a couple hours.
Right, and it provides steady energy at that.
Absolutely, yeah. The energy is steady, high antioxidants, especially the Heartbreaker. This one here is the antioxidant powerhouse because it's got goji berries, matcha tea, and the cacao nibs.
Wow, and this is my exam study time go-to snack.
Oh, awesome.
They sell it at my school.
That's so good.
So we actually have a caller and the winner on the line, Maria from Mississauga. So Maria,
Hey,
hello.
Maria.
You've won.
Congratulations,
Maria, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I hear you have 2 questions for Stephanie.
Oh,
I
wow.
do.
Then-
What a
Alright.
great idea, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you so much, Maria.
My first question is, if I start going on a gluten-free diet, what kind of side effects would I notice?
Well, okay, so if you start a gluten-free diet, the side effects are actually quite positive. So, speaking from experience, because for me it was an elimination diet. My stomach pains went away. Flatulence was an issue for me. That went away. That also went away when I cut dairy out of my
dairy's
diet.
big with that.
Yeah. Skin conditions were, I had psoriasis, and that became less evident. Migraine headaches were diminished. So that's a great question. Like, there is a whole list of benefits when you go on a gluten-free diet. And you can find those actually at the Canadian Celiac Association website.
Really?
They list them on there. Great question.
Good.
I always
good.
liken it to the fact that it's not in our physiology to eat these products, to eat gluten, right?
No, it's not.
So I liken it to, pandas eat what pandas eat, which is bamboo. And if they try to eat something else, they get sick. Not that that food isn't good for other species, but like
Absolutely.
humans, we're not meant to be eating gluten.
That's right.
What was your second question, Maria?
I live in Mississauga. Where would I be able to find some of these products?
We are slowly entering Mississauga stores. We're in Batalia's in Lorne Park, and
Okay.
we're also in Streetsville. There's a new health food store, I believe it's Nature's Way,
Okay.
on Queen Street in Streetsville. So those are the 2 locations for now, but Mississauga's kind of been a little bit, I haven't had a lot of time because I'm a one-woman show, so I haven't had a lot of time to approach health food stores and find food stores in Mississauga. But, to all your viewers out there, if they wanted to go into maybe Michelangelo's or even Cousins or any stores like that and just suggest that they give me a call or email me, I'd be glad to go out and show them my product line.
Okay. Did you know that there's a Whole Food store coming up near Square One?
Actually, I do. I do know about that, and so I'm going to try to approach the buyer there. So, yeah, keep your fingers crossed.
Oh, yeah, because my niece is just discovered she's has a glucose intolerance, and she's finding it very hard to find snacks, and your product is the
common.
perfect thing for a student.
Oh, that's so great.
I'll have to pick some up for her.
Okay, well, I'll do my best, and we'll all work together as a community and team and help me get my healthy, delicious snacks into these places.
Sure. And can I order any online by any chance?
Yeah, Maria, you can. Just go on my website, girlnola.com. It's a really simple website to navigate, and all the information's on there.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for your
And
questions,
I
Maria.
didn't even know there was a prize, so
Yeah, there
I can't
is.
believe it.
That's
Awesome.
excellent.
Oh, what
Yeah,
an exciting.
Great.
Great.
What do I got to do to, where do I go to pick up this prize?
We will get you on the phone, and they'll call you back and get your address, and we'll deliver it.
Okay, thank you so much. That's
Thanks for
very
calling,
good.
Maria. Have a great night.
Maybe I'll
Thank
even
you.
deliver it personally. She was such a sweet lady.
Well, another question I have too, since it's all women here talking about
Yes.
granola. With the name granola, is this product aimed at girls, or is it for guys too?
Anybody can eat
Anyone
my
can eat
healthy
granola.
snacks. Yes, absolutely. Like I haven't put in anything that is just beneficial to women. Yeah, anyone and everyone. Kids love my products. My niece, who's 20 months old, loves. I make these granola cookies and bars from the granola. It's a flourless, sugarless little treat that you can make with a bag of these recipes on my website. And my 20-month-old niece, Kiara, loves them. She eats them. So young, old, male, female, anybody can have it.
No worries. What gender you are, granola is delicious.
Absolutely.
So what's up and coming for the granola line?
Well, I'd like to come up with a new truffle flavor with acai berry.
Oh.
And cherry. Cherries are really good for you, high antioxidants and good for anti-inflammatory and arthritis. So I'd like to come up with that. And I might look into clustering my granola or my trail mixes.
Just so it's easier.
Yeah, just so it's a little bit more portable, and like the granola is so popular and people love the taste of it that I want to cluster it with 70% dark chocolate.
Wow.
Yeah, and maybe offer that. But we're still going to continue to do lots of events and trade shows and support local female charities like we have been. So we're still going to do that.
excellent.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Stephanie, and telling us a bit about granola.
Thanks, Erica. It was awesome to be here and to see you again.
Yeah, it was great. So check out girlnola.com. Welcome back to Health Matters. We're now in the second half of the show, and we've been talking about superfoods for super health. We've already discussed gluten-free living with Victoria, and then super-powered locally made granola with Stephanie. Next, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of superfoods with registered holistic nutritionist Joy McCarthy of Joyous Health. So welcome to the show, Joy.
Thank you for
So glad to have you on. So Joy, can you tell us briefly what got you into this lovely field of nutrition?
Yes, well, I realized the healing power of foods with myself because back about 10, 15 years ago, I was not feeling so good and I had some serious health issues. My hair was starting to fall out. I had some hormonal issues, and I realized the amazing healing power of foods, and I literally used food like medicine and healed myself. So that really inspired me to learn so much more about these amazing foods.
I think that's definitely a story many of us share in the health field, and it's also a story that many Canadians and people in Peel region share, because a lot of us don't feel our best, and we don't realize that we can change that just by changing our diet, really.
And I think also too that a lot of people just accept that health is just not getting sick. You know, it's not getting a cold or a flu. But what I really believe and what I really share with my clients is that good health is feeling fabulous every single day of the week. And you can feel that way when you eat things like these kind of superfoods. Yes. Yeah.
So definitely, I believe health is a state of vibrancy, not just the absence of disease. That's well put. Now, I got to see you speak downtown Toronto at an event about these superfoods, and I just loved it. And what I liked was that you and I have spoken about this. There are superfoods coming out all the time in health magazines or on TV or on the news, and it's usually some exotic berry or some far-off algae at a lake that, you know, only one person can get to. So it's foods that Canadians and people in Peel can't really access easily or get into their diets, or they're kind of weird or foreign to them. What I like about your approach, though, is that it's foods that are easy to get and easy to use.
And yeah, you can find a lot of these foods just at regular grocery stores. You know, you don't have to go hunting into, you know, some little store in Kensington Market looking for. I mean, so many things are at regular grocery stores now.
That's right, and that's what I want to talk about is the superpowers of these regular foods. And I think the first one we've got on the table here is kale.
Yes. Kale.
So we're talking about
kale is the king of leafy greens.
That's right.
I love kale, and a lot of people, I remember my first introduction to kale was only a few years ago, and I was like, what the heck am I going to do with this thing? But as you know, it's a leafy green, and it's so good for your hair. I consider it like hair's natural moisturizer because of the vitamins like A, vitamin C, vitamin K.
That's right.
So rich in antioxidants, and it's, as you probably know, of all the vegetables, it's part of the cruciferous family, which is like anti-cancer. They are the most potent anti-cancer foods.
And there are several types of cancer this protects against, right?
Yes, absolutely. Prostate cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer. And also because of the indole-3 carbinol, which is a phytochemical, is amazing for estrogen-dominant type cancers because it helps to bind with the bad estrogens. When you eat this kind of food, the indole-3 carbinol binds with the bad estrogens and it helps to flush that out of the body, which is amazing. So that can help with things like PMS too, if you have, you know, excess bad estrogens.
And a lot of people don't realize that these conditions can be helped by food and something so simple as kale. So how can we be eating this kale? How can we be taking it in our everyday lives?
Yeah, well, what I suggest, if you're new to kale, then you might not want to start just, you know, eating it like this. What I suggest is putting it into a smoothie. You know, just take like one leaf and throw it into a smoothie, or mix it into some pasta. You don't even really have to cook it. If you want to just eat it plain like that, you can literally just saute it in some coconut oil, which is another superfood, or some organic butter with some lemon. Just squeeze some lemon, some sea salt, pepper. So simple. You know, it's like cooking broccoli. It takes, you know, 2 minutes to cook, and it's so delicious and so rich in fiber, so you feel fuller longer. And it is truly, I consider kale actually to be a beauty food.
I believe so too. That's right. And I think it's funny because I was afraid the first time to put kale into my smoothie, but it didn't even taste like anything.
No, you don't even notice it. No. And I think I suggest a lot of moms do that because they're always trying to, you know, get more live whole foods into their kids' diet. And I think that's such a good way to do it, is to throw it into a smoothie. You know, it might turn it a little green, but it doesn't, you absolutely don't even taste it.
No, just serve it out of a colored glass and they'll never know.
Yeah, exactly. You put a little straw. It's perfect.
So when talking about fiber, you've got another great superfood on here, which is chia seeds.
Yes.
So let's chat about the chia seeds.
I love chia seeds. So chia seeds are ancient. They have been around literally for thousands of years, and they're just really gaining popularity again. So they're actually from the mint family, but they are completely gluten-free. They're a source of protein, which is great for vegetarians and vegans because it's a complete source of protein, all the essential amino acids. And it's so easy to get into your diet because it's such a good source of fiber and omega-3 fat as well.
That's right.
So, and it's actually has more fiber than wheat bran.
Really?
And a lot of people, you know, eating the different brand cereals makes them really bloated.
And they don't realize it.
Exactly. And so chia, you can get, you know, chia has more fiber actually than wheat bran in the same amount. So if you know, take a quart of a cup and compare in terms of fiber, chia has a lot more fiber.
More fiber, less bloating, essentially.
Yes, exactly. And it's so detoxifying too. I mean, all fibers are very detoxifying, but I really like chia. And unlike flax, you know, with flax you have to, it has to be ground to release the omega-3. With the chia, your stomach acids break it down, so you can eat the seed whole.
So fairly easy to digest, essentially.
Yes, for sure. And just like kale, it's very easy to hide in foods, especially with kids.
Right.
You know, you can put it in some yogurt, you can sprinkle it on your salad, put it into your smoothie. So many different ways to hide it, and kids won't even know.
That's right, and I find it actually adds a really nice creamy texture to certain foods, and with baking as well. It's a good egg replacer.
Yes,
what's going on with that when you put it into liquids? It tends to get a little bit thicker. What's that all about?
So it becomes like very gelatinous because it absorbs so much water.
Really?
Yeah, so it's great actually if you want to make a pudding, for example.
Right.
You know, if you wanted to take like avocado and some raw cacao and some chia seeds, some coconut oil, it would get like very, very gelatinous.
Make a delicious raw pudding.
Yes, exactly. But you have to be careful because I remember my first time I ever used chia, and I made my smoothie and I dumped a bunch of chia, and I didn't really know a lot about it. This was, you know, way back when, and it became, you know, very, very gelatinous, like a sludge, and yeah, I couldn't eat it at that point. So you don't want to put it into, you know, say yogurt and then leave it for a while. You want to put it in and then eat it.
I think I had that experience where I picked up my smoothie and turned it upside down, and it wouldn't even come out. So.
Yeah, it's a bit like psyllium, but it's great for vegans because they can use it, like you just said, as, you know, a replacement for eggs. Yeah, because it binds things together. And then I love this. I don't know if you know of this cereal, the Chia Goodness cereal, because a lot of people aren't sure how to get just the plain chia seeds into their diet. But the chia cereal has like buckwheat and hemp in it as well, so you add water to that and you can have that as a cereal.
Almost like a porridge.
Exactly, and they do a chocolate one as well where they put raw cacao in. It's really it's delicious.
So talking about putting in too much, what would you say is a good serving size to start with?
Yeah, I would say about, you know, just like a spoonful, like 1 tablespoon just to start. You know, whenever you're adding a new fiber to your diet, you want to start slowly and see how your body reacts because it is very detoxifying. So I always suggest start slowly, and then, you know, you don't need to go up to more than sort of 2 tablespoons per day.
Right.
But it is a good source of protein too, so and good fats as well. Yeah.
And what's the bonus with eating protein and fats in our diets?
Well, the other thing is it's going to slow the release of glucose into the bloodstream. So for people with diabetes or hypoglycemia or just, you know, concerned about their blood sugar, that's a great thing about eating something that's fiber rich, a protein and a fat, is it provides that slow release. And of course, protein and fat is so good for your brain health. Right. And your skin health, you know, and your digestive health. We could go on and on about how amazing chia seeds are, but they are really a superfood.
Any difference between the white one that I see sometimes in health food stores versus the mixed kind, the black and the white?
Not really, actually. It's kind of like you'll see the quinoa I have there. It's just different varieties, basically. But in terms of nutrition, there's no real difference. You will definitely notice there is a difference in price, though, of some brands.
What I've seen.
Yes, that's why I like this brand because I find that it's very reasonably priced. But I tend to stay away from, you know, I've seen bags of chia for, you know, $27, $28 at Whole Foods. And you really don't have to spend that much. You know, you can spend $7 or $8 and get a good quality chia.
That'll last quite a while.
Yes.
So we're talking about quinoa. Let's talk about this superfood next. Tell me about quinoa.
I love quinoa. I mean, I love all these foods, but I really love quinoa because quinoa it's an ancient grain-like food. A lot of people actually think that it's a grain, but it's not. It's just because it cooks like a grain.
Yeah.
But again, it's gluten-free. It's a complete source of vegetarian protein. It has good fats, so many minerals. But this you can use to, I mean, I'm not a vegetarian, but I certainly use quinoa instead of having chicken or having fish.
Right.
Because you are getting the protein. It's very filling. It has so many minerals. I recommend quinoa for runners too because it's a source of iron.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a source of magnesium. So a lot of people, you know, who get headaches or migraines can really benefit from quinoa. And it's one of those foods though, when I suggest my clients try quinoa, I always suggest that people try quinoa. And when they come back to me and they say, oh, Joy, I didn't like that quinoa stuff. You know, it had no flavor whatsoever. And then I ask them, well, how did you prepare it? They just tell me they prepared it just with water. But it's one of those foods that takes on the flavor of whatever you cook it with.
Very true.
So, you know, if you're not a vegetarian, you could cook it in a good quality chicken stock. It's gonna, you know, have that chicken flavor. But I just add like lots of herbs to it. And I, you know, often a few times a week I'll do a nice big quinoa bowl. I'll put kale, put avocado, you know, put my herbs and spices, and it's delicious. I assume you eat quinoa too?
Yes,
You like quinoa?
it's very filling. I do enjoy it for that. And I like what you said too, that it isn't actually grain. I think it's technically a seed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
That's
it is
right.
a seed. And it's, you know, gaining popularity now, and it's been around, you know, for what, 3,000 years.
Right.
And now people are starting to get back into eating it, and that makes me very happy.
Right,
It's a
I think it
superfood.
was like the staple of the Mayans way
Yes,
back when.
yes.
Now, is there any
exactly.
difference with this when it comes to color? Because I've seen red, I've seen black, I've seen white.
Yeah, again, it's kind of the same as the chia, just like different varieties. Personally, I like the lighter better because I find that it's fluffier and more dense. I find that the darker quinoas are a little bit more grainy.
Right.
But as you can see, I kind of mix them together just because I think it looks pretty when you cook it.
Better to display.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people who start to eat quinoa just always eat it savory, but it's actually great to eat as a breakfast food too. You know,
Right.
chop up some apple, sprinkle some cinnamon, have it with some almond milk, so you can have it as a cereal instead of having, you know, the typical cereal that makes a lot of people bloated and cause digestive issues.
Great as a porridge. When we come back, more with Joy on the top 10 superfoods she recommends. Hi, and welcome back to Health Matters, where we're in the last segment of the show talking about superfoods for super health with registered holistic nutritionist Joy McCarthy. So Joy, it's great and all that we've got these superfoods, but I think one thing a lot of us are concerned about is cost. So if I'm going to start incorporating these foods, and again, none of them are particularly exotic, but is this going to increase my grocery bill, or are there solutions around that?
Yeah, I mean, that is a great question. And the thing is, like, shopping in bulk, shopping at farmers markets where you can get better deals. But something, for example, like the quinoa, you can get a brand that I really like because it's pre-washed of quinoa called Bob's Red Mill. Okay. Now that bag will cost you maybe $10, $11. But the thing is, that is going to give you probably almost 15 meals worth. So while it may seem expensive, it may cost more than white rice, which might be only $2.99, you're getting so many more meals, and you're getting something that's so rich in protein and good fat, and it's going to sustain you longer. And then things like chia seeds, you know, this bag is probably $7, but you're not going to eat, you know, the whole bag in 1 week.
Right.
You're going to use it moderately. You know, you're going to use 1 to 2 tablespoons a day. So, and the other thing is these kinds of foods are, they're therapeutic foods, right? This is where we're truly using food as medicine. So, you know, we're not, like I said, we're not having the whole bag of chia. We're just adding little bits here and there.
And I think, and I've heard it said before, that you're going to pay for it either now or later.
Very good point.
So,
yeah, so put in the effort now to make good food and add these superfoods to your diet so you don't have to pay with your health later on. That's such a great point.
And another thing too is if you invest a little bit now in food, you can also invest less in supplements, right? Because we're getting the minerals and the vitamins.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
100%.
Okay, so let's get on to talking about this lovely display. We've got turmeric up next, so let's talk about turmeric.
And these lovely bottles, aren't they so nice?
They are.
I love the packaging. Simply Organic, they do really, really great herbs and spices. Turmeric, now I said that kale was the king of the leafy greens. I would say that turmeric is definitely king of the spice and herb world. It's so amazing as an anti-inflammatory. So for any, as you know, any itis condition, so things like arthritis. In fact, they have done so many studies on turmeric and the active ingredient being curcumin. It will blow your mind. It's really amazing when you compare. So for example, they've done studies on curcumin comparing it to things like hydrocortisone and ibuprofen, and it is literally effective. And this is a whole food that has no side effects whatsoever.
Right.
So, and as well, it's anti-cancer, so it reduces the risk of so many different kinds of cancers. It's very detoxifying, and it's great actually for people who crave salt as well, because it's high in potassium. And this particular one here, it's actually a shaker. So instead, what I suggest people do, instead of using salt, sprinkle this on, you know, your leafy green salad, and it's not strong. Like turmeric is only a component of curry powder, right? A lot of people think turmeric, it's going to taste like a curry if they don't like that taste, but it actually doesn't have a really strong taste. So it's easy to add to different foods just by, you know, sprinkling it on.
And I've seen it in some interesting things like tea or even smoothies as well, just a little bit of it in there.
Yeah, or warming up some almond milk. And adding, you know, a bit of turmeric is a great way to get it into your diet. And like I said, it doesn't really have a strong flavor.
Right.
You know, there are some great curry powders that you can combine the turmeric, you combine the other curry powders to make it taste really strong, which I personally love.
Yeah, me too.
But this one's good because I don't find it overpowering.
And what's the importance briefly on getting spices that are organic?
That is very important because a lot of spices are irradiated, which lowers the antioxidants, lowers the nutrition of it. So it is...
It's like x-raying the spices, essentially.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So that's why I like this brand, because they are organic. And you know, it's interesting because when you compare a non-organic turmeric to an organic, you can tell in taste and color. Like, I mean, look how beautiful that color is, how bright it is. It's the same thing with the cinnamon. You know, you buy the non-organic cinnamon in the store and it's like a pale brown.
Right.
And that's how you know that it's, you know, it's been so processed.
And these colors actually are the nutrients. It's the phytonutrients that give it that color.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's turmeric. Another thing you touched on briefly before was coconut oil, and we've got two of those here to talk about.
Yep, coconut oil has received such a bad reputation.
Yes, and we're
it's
still having to fight
so
for
not
it.
deserving. Yeah, so true. I feel as a nutritionist, and I'm sure you do, I'm always, fighting the battle for coconut oil.
Yep.
But coconut oil is so deserving of being a superfood because it's 50% of it is lauric acid.
And
this
what's
is-
so special
Yeah,
about
so the only other source of lauric acid is breast milk. So it's a really good fat that our body loves to use as a source of energy. So it's a medium chain triglyceride, which is so great. Our body uses it as a source of energy. It stimulates our metabolic rate. It helps people lose weight. They've done so many different studies on coconut oil, not just with weight loss, but I was reading a study recently about heart attacks, and they found that people who suffered from a heart attack, when they were given coconut oil in their recovery, recovered so much faster.
really.
Yeah, it is a superfood.
And that goes against what we used to believe, which was that saturated fats like coconut oil are bad for the heart. And
Yeah.
so I'm glad you touched on that study. But also the important thing too that I think viewers should know is that this is a medium fat, and it's the long chain, right, that are more linked to the
Yes.
heart disease.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
exactly. So it's a good fat, and it's so easy to incorporate it into your diet. It's also antiviral.
Right.
They've been doing some studies actually with AIDS and HIV patients and finding that it's really, really good for the immune system. So it has so many different purposes. And, they're like in the Philippines, they have been using it for literally hundreds of years. And, that's what a lot of these researchers are saying is, they attribute their amazing, robust health to the fact that they eat a lot of coconut-based products.
And yet not a
So-
lot of heart disease there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's great, it's not just for eating, but putting it on your skin.
That's right.
Using it as a moisturizer. I put it in my hair. I get those flyaways when it's really humid outside and putting it at on the ends of your hair.
That's
It
right.
does a great job.
An all-around beauty product. And can we cook with this as well?
Yes, great point. That's the main purpose of it really is cooking with it because it's a safe oil. You can bring it up to a high temperature, and the structure of the oil doesn't change at all. Whereas, as you know, a lot of the liquid oils aren't safe to bring to a high temperature because they have
That's
a
right.
low burn point. So I like sautéing it. For example, I'll sauté some kale in the coconut oil, and it doesn't give it that like overpowering coconut taste.
No, it doesn't.
Or for vegans, using it as a butter, put it on toast. I like to put it. This brand here. So this is the raw cocoa butter. So that's just the oil. So this butter, I actually like to slather that on pancakes. So delicious, so good. And there's so many different uses for it.
That's excellent. The other one that I want to talk about, because it's right beside it here, is the raw unpasteurized
Yes.
honey. So tell us why that's a superfood, and does it have to be raw and unpasteurized?
Yeah, so honey is absolutely in the superfood category, and it's not only tasty, it's like bursting with nutrition because honey is such a good source of enzymes. And we need to be eating our enzymes because so many people are eating the SAD diet, which is the standard American diet, and we're not eating whole life foods. So as you know, this puts a great load on our body to produce enzymes, but why not eat the enzymes that are going to help digest our food? So it's
That's
a source of
true.
amino acids. It's great for allergies, especially eating local honey. So if you eat honey local to the area that you live, this really helps to build your body's defenses against those flowers that you're allergic to.
Right, and I think that's interesting, trying to seek out the local honey for your own allergies.
Yes, absolutely. And then you asked about pasteurized versus unpasteurized. So I always suggest unpasteurized because then honey is also a source of good bacteria. But when foods are pasteurized, they're heated up to very high temperatures and it destroys everything that's beneficial in it.
Right.
So this particular one is also raw, as you can tell because it's solid. So that's literally the first extraction or the first harvest from the honeycomb is the rawest, most pure honey you can get. But it doesn't mean that when you see honey that's liquid and also unpasteurized, it's still good. It's just that this is the king of the honeys,
That's right.
The raw
best of the
unpasteurized
best.
stuff, and it's so delicious.
Excellent. We are coming near the end of the show, and I don't want to finish
Yeah.
without talking about chocolate, because this is something that many people love.
Yes, we love our chocolate.
But we have to talk about the differences between chocolate. And what I liked is you talked at the talk when I saw you downtown about your experience in advertising. So are you able to share that with us?
What was the story? I
About
tell so many
you
different.
talk about the health benefits of
yes,
chocolate.
yes, yes. Well, it's interesting because I mean, you know, you see so many different commercials always talking about how chocolate is so good for you, so high in antioxidants. It has chemicals that make you feel in love, make you feel blissful. But those kind of chocolate bars, like the Kit Kat, the O. Henrys of the world, that's not real chocolate.
No.
That doesn't have all those beneficial properties. So if you want to get the true benefits of chocolate, you know, when you hear that chocolate is so high in antioxidants and so good for you, this is the stuff you want to be having.
The raw cacao.
Yes, the raw cacao, exactly, because it hasn't been processed at all. Now this type of thing, so these are the nibs. They are going to be bitter. So this is when you want, so with the nibs, you would combine it, say, with some dates. You'd combine it with
a
other
sweetener.
things. But this is such a superfood because it is so high in antioxidants, and it also has chemicals like naturally occurring chemical compounds like PA, and a whole bunch of other ones that I can't even pronounce. And this literally makes you feel good.
That's
like
right.
this is what, you know, we always have heard for, you know, years, you know, decades, that chocolate makes you feel good and in love. Well, yes, it is true, but only when you're having it in this state, right? In this form. So there's also the powder, and
Right.
the powder, you know, you can make a chocolate banana smoothie. So, you know, just adding like 1 teaspoon of powder to your smoothie, and it gives it that nice chocolate taste. Or baking with it too. That's another way that I love to do. Or making raw cookies with the nibs. So it's easy to incorporate into your diet, I think.
So many things that you can do with the superfoods. Well, that's about all the time we've got. If people want to check out more, can they see on your website all about superfoods?
Yeah, absolutely.
So log
Yep.
on to joyoushealth.ca to find more of these. Was there one last thing you can talk to us about very briefly?
Yes, ginger. This is my favorite anti-bloating food. So just shaving a bit of ginger into some hot water with lemon, so good if you're bloated, because it's an anti-inflammatory. Yes, love ginger. That's all I wanted to say.
That's excellent. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Joy. I
Thank you
loved
for having me.
you.
It was fun.
That's it for me for this season, so I hope you all have a very healthy summer. Bye for now.
Truly happening out there in the market. You know what? It is still stable. Real estate's always going to be one of the best investments you can ever make in your entire life. Why? Because everybody has to live somewhere. You're going to do one of two things. You're going to either own or you're going to rent. And if you're going to be an investor, remember there's always renters out there. That's so important. It's really important to keep in mind that real estate is a solid investment. Just make sure you take good care of it, because that's really important. You know what? Keep the maintenance up. Make sure you stage your home, because if you want to sell it, you want to make sure you sell it for the highest price. So for all of us here at Equity Builders Realty TV, I'm your host, Todd C. Slater. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.